happy Saturday. Welcome back to Restoring Christine. Bill here, 56 Bel Air behind me. Her name's Christine. Again, this channel is Restoring Christine. We had a little bit of a hiatus. We went to cruising the coast, the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We took our 1971 Cutlass convertible. Spent, I don't know, Wednesday through Sunday, so however many days that is, 5 days, 4, whatever it is, cruising the coast. Beautiful event. There were over 10,000 registered cruisers, registered cars, separate cars officially registered. 10,000 classics, all 1989 and older. I mean, it's phenomenal. Beach, sun, warmth of the Mississippi Gulf Coast. It's a great event. Had a wonderful time. Now we're back in the garage. We're getting ready to work on Christine again, and I'm trying to get my momentum back, and the weather is beautiful. So I am getting ready to paint the car. I know I've been threatening that for a long time, but now the weather's right. I'm starting to disassemble it. But what I wanted to do today, before I really don't have a whole lot that I'm working on now. I'm just trying to get my stuff back in order. I'm getting ready to start literally applying paint. But I'm getting my last minute touch-up list done. But what I wanted to talk about today was I looked at the calendar and it occurred to me that today is my dad's birthday. And my daddy was 40 years older than me. He had me late in life. I was 29 when my dad passed. And as chance would have it, my wife and I were expecting our first. So my wife was 7 months pregnant when my dad passed. So it was 2 months before my first child was born. And I have three kids, and it doesn't hit you as a parent what it means to be a parent when suddenly you get that first child and you're holding that first child and you realize that your life is not your own anymore. And everything that you do is for the welfare of that child, and it's not about you anymore. So, it was a very emotional time when my dad passed. So, I look back at my dad, and I want to make this video as a little bit of an homage to my dad and what he means to me and what he meant to me and my relationship to cars, and why this channel, why this car, why is Bill a gearhead? So let's start a little bit way back in the beginning when Bill was better known as Billy. And I got my driver's license. So I got my driver's license at the age of 15, and I learned how to drive in a 1976 Chevrolet van that was manual everything. And I was 5'4", weighed all of 105 pounds wet. And this thing had 3 in the tree, manual steering, manual brakes. It had a clutch, manual clutch, and I horsed that thing through my driver's test, and I passed and I got my driver's license. But anyway, when it came time to get my first car, at the time, I loved the Cutlasses and the Chevelles, the Malibus of the day. So the very first car we got from me took $500, and there was a magazine called News on Wheels, right? That had all pictures of all the cars, and it was like the classified ads in the book form came out once a week. So the News on Wheels came out, and I found this 1974 Chevelle Malibu, and it was dirt cheap. They wanted $500 for it. I'm like, oh, we're going to look at that. So we went to look at that car, and it took every last penny that I had scraped together that my dad was able to throw at it, and $500. We took that car, and you want to talk about baptism by fire? That 1974 Chevelle, it smoked a little bit. Well, the smoke turned out to be steam, and within 48 hours of driving it away from the people that we bought it from, I went to start it. The starter threw a piston up, boom, deadheaded against water, bent the connecting rod, and we fought it all weekend before we realized that the motor had seized up. And the reason why we didn't think it seized up is because you could spin it with the screwdriver, you could rotate it. But the thing is you could rotate it one way until it locked up, and then you could rotate it the other way until it locked up. So 48 hours of owning my very first car, it needs a new motor. So we put a 350 out of a junkyard in it, and that's really the start of it. Is okay, cars are meant to be taken apart and worked on. So as it turns out, we did not put that motor in. We paid a mechanic to put it in, but then after that, it was like everything that went on a motor. Fuel pump, I had to change that. Okay, the exhaust collapses. I went to the parts store and got a segment of exhaust pipe, and we put a new exhaust pipe with the Thrush, whatever I don't know, they weren't cherry bombs, but the Thrush exhaust in it, and we cut it off right before the the rear axle. And that 74 Chevelle was heavy. It only had maybe 150 horsepower, but it was mine, and it was my car, and that's what we learned everything on. So my dad and I took that 74 Chevelle, and if anybody's ever owned a car, a GM car from the 1970s, they made of sugar. They rust a lot. So this car was no exception, and we were going to paint it, and we were going to have somebody paint it. You know, so my dad shows me how he knew how to do body work, and so the first time I'm exposed to Bondo and sandpaper and grinding metal down and taking an old metal sign of some sort or something and tin snips and cutting out, and we used to use pop rivets. We'd screw holes and pop rivet a patch in, and we'd Bondo over it, and then we'd prime it with rattle can paint from the auto parts store, and that was about as sophisticated as we got. But we did that entire car, went all the way around it, and we got rid of every last bit of rust on the outside that we could find. But we were talking about little small patches. You know, you're talking about in the lower quarters and lower bit of the fender, you know, little spots. So we never did get that car painted, but I learned an awful lot about mechanicking on that car. Well, I wanted to upgrade. And I had that car for a while, and I really wanted a 68 to 72 Chevelle badly. So I couldn't afford one, but one day I'm driving along and I see this 1970 Chevelle, and it's just a body. It's kind of up high in the front. It had a for sale sign on it. I swear to you, it's just like the scene in the movie Christine. There's a ratty old red car, black vinyl top, and there's a for sale sign kind of half peeled off because it's been sitting there forever. So I pulled over and I went and wrote the number down, called the guy up, and next thing you know, within a week, $300 later, me and my dad, we literally towed the car home with a tow strap or a chain or something. So we got it home, and now I had the body for the 1970, and I had the 74 Chevelle. And what we would do is we had it jacked up on blocks, and on the weekends and in the afternoons we'd do the same thing. So this time we thought, okay, we're a lot better than what we were on the 74, so we did a little better job on the 1970. And the 70, we got it to where it was all primed and ready to paint, but we didn't have the equipment to paint it. We didn't have the place to paint it, and I wasn't brave enough, and we didn't know enough about painting cars to really do it ourselves. So I paid a friend of mine an older guy who owned a body shop, and he did us a favor, and he shot it, and we shot it with a three. I don't guess you call it 3-stage, but it was House of Color Candy Apple Red. It had a base coat of silver, and then it had an orange metallic over it, and then it had a candy red clear. And this thing was beautiful. The paint job was beautiful. We didn't ever quite finish it. I still had those 5 spokes. Those 5 spokes never did get polished. The slot wheels. I say 5 spokes. The slot wheel. The slots. Then the vinyl top was the original vinyl top. It was black and faded, and there was only so much Armor All I could put on it to make it look good. But that car, we had to put a motor in it. So we picked up a 327 that my uncle had under his carport, and it had power pack heads on it. So we rebuilt that motor, put that motor in it. I had a TH350 in it, and I used to do a little bit of hot rodding on the streets with it. The last day of school for my senior year, it was all senior burnout day, and that was a tradition. So we took that Chevelle out, and I pulled it out of the schoolyard, and we got just outside of the long arm of the faculty law, and they had a whole bunch of us, and we were all doing burnouts as we were leaving. It was a big celebratory thing. And as we turn back and we look up at the balconies of the school, who's out there but the disciplinarian? Was he taking names? No, he was sitting back with popcorn, watching it and enjoying it. So such was life back then. But anyway, back to my dad. So my dad and I worked on that Chevelle, and I kept breaking it, and I'd hot rod it and break it, and then we put another cam in it, and then we ended up doing the interior. And so he and I just kept doing more and more stuff to that Chevelle. And then eventually, life catches up to you. I got a little older. I couldn't do any more hot rodding on the streets. And, I had to grow up a bit. So I traded in the Chevelle, sold it actually. I sold it, and I got something sensible. I got a 79 Monte Carlo. And it had a 6-cylinder in it, 231 6-cylinder. The thing was sloppy as can be. You pop the hood and it idled like that. But I got used to it, and at least I put the key in it. It started, and it got me where I needed to go, and it had air conditioning, and that was a plus. But so eventually, unfortunately, life threw me a curveball, and somebody stole that car. So I had nothing, and I'm trying to get back and forth to work, and I've got nothing. So I borrowed my dad's Crown Vic, and I literally now I don't have 2 nickels to rub together, and I got to get another vehicle. So I happened to run across, just 2 blocks away from the place where I was working, there was a 1968 Chevelle, and it was what you would call a survivor. It was the metallic mint green, but it was dull. The interior was all ratted out. It had a 307 in it with a 2-barrel. But I'm telling you, you put the key in it, and the key was on a dash. You put the key in it, you turn it, and it didn't matter how long it was sitting. Just a little click of the key, and it was like, boom, it fired right up. And that car would take me back and forth no matter where I wanted to go. I would take it back and forth to Florida, and that car was like reliable as can be. It had a 2-speed power glide in it. I didn't want to hot rod it. I didn't want to molest it. I didn't want to do anything to it, but I did want to restore it. So my dad and I, this is when we rolled up our sleeves and we got really, really serious. My dad and I took that car, and it was my daily driver, but we would take it when I got off of work or I got home on a weekend or something like that, and we'd roll it in his driveway, and we started repairing the rust on it and doing body work on it and got it together. And I wanted to paint it a bright yellow. I was young, and that's what looked good, at the time. That's what everybody kind of wanted, to be loud and flashy. So, friend of mine that I made at the parts store, they sold Martin Senior paints, and it was a Napa, I believe, and he convinced me. He's like, oh man, if you want a bright yellow, 1976 Corvette yellow is what you want. So my dad and I borrowed a compressor, borrowed a cheapy Campbell Housefeld spray gun, and he and I rolled that thing in a garage. We borrowed a warehouse garage. We knew a plumber, and the plumber allowed us to roll it in there. So we had like so much free space in there that we didn't have to worry about putting up anything to collect the dust, and the overspray was just falling on the floor. So he and I, we spent a weekend painting all the door jambs, and then we came back the next day and we painted the body, and it was a beautiful colored yellow. That was a single stage paint in acrylic enamel. So, my dad and I, we went through that, and that was, every picture I have of my dad at that time, it's not of he and I hugging each other or, posing for a picture. It's usually of me taking a picture of him with a hammer in his hand, or me taking a picture of him sanding down something, or the tape measure or something. And my dad taught me so much, and I'm really very appreciative of him and what he gave to me. And you know what? I just came back from cruising the coast, and I have 2 sons. And my 2 sons are, while they're not in the garage with me, it's just like I wasn't next to my dad, and my dad was building cabinets when I was a kid. The same thing. He kind of built this kind of stuff, and so then when I got to be an adult, I kind of knew enough about it to where I wasn't scared of a circular saw or a drill or cutting and making mistakes. I wasn't afraid of it. So my kids are the same way. My 2 sons are the same way. And my son, my older son, went with me to cruising the coast, and he's the one that he just helps me out when we're out there. And he and I this year cruising the coast, we just 2 weeks before we went, we put in a brand new steering box in the Cutlass because the old one was leaking. Worked all fine up until we got there, and we got there the very first day. The thing blows out a seal. I had to get my wife to come get me, or actually not get me. She had to bring me parts out. She had to bring me the old one. So my son and I are underneath the car, changing that steering box on the beach, and he's right there with me, and he knows every last nut and bolt in that 1971 Cutlass. So, and my younger son, who's off at college, he's in grad school right now, he's become like the campus go-to guy when things break. when friends' cars don't start, they call him. So, the stuff rolls downhill. It trickles down and it sticks. So, but anyway, today is my dad's birthday. My dad would have been 90, I haven't done the math, he would have been in his upper 90s, 96, I think he would have been. So, we're doing Christine. I'm doing this in memory of my dad. I'm doing this for the benefit of my sons. I'm doing this for the benefit of, just family life. car cruising, car culture. But that's where I'm at. So, hope I didn't bore you with that story. It's probably long-winded. I don't know how long I was talking, but you know, I love my dad. I love being a dad. And you know, hey, it's life. So I'm going to continue working on Christine. Coming at you within the next few episodes. You're going to start to see me start to throw down some paint. We'll throw up some plastic up in here. We'll get this garage ready to paint Christine. And I've made up my mind. I am going with that bright 2023 GM Chevrolet, or it might be even 2024. Pull me over red. That's what I'm going with. And I've just got to find the white to couple with it. We're going to start shooting this thing within the next couple of 3 weeks. So stick with me. Hope you enjoyed the story. Hope you're enjoying the channel. If you're liking what you're seeing in the videos, please give them a thumbs up. And if you're enjoying the channel, I'd love to have you along for a ride, so a subscription would take care of that. So until I see you next time, please take care of yourself.